Hi, and welcome to my basic SolidWorks tutorial. The point of this video is to run through some fairly basic concepts in SolidWorks and get you started on your way to doing some pretty advanced and pretty exciting models. I have here is what seems a little bit like a bullet casing. It's just kind of what I thought of, and it's kind of what I ended up with. We're going to go through several ways of doing this. The first thing we're going to do is go through extrudes, do some dimensioning, talk about fillets, and some shell, and then redo the part using a different method. If you're brand new to SolidWorks, this is what we'll be helping you out here. So we have here is the SolidWorks window. We're going to just come up here to File, press New, click Apart. If you're brand new to SolidWorks and you don't know what this stuff means yet, we'll get around to that. For right now, we'll just click Part. You can click between these, but click Part, press OK. It's going to be loading some of the features. You're given this window. Up here, you have a lot of different features that you can be using, or a lot of different, I suppose, tabs with all kinds of different buttons that do all kinds of different things, and we can get around to a lot of them. I don't know about all of them, but for right now we're just going to be sticking with these two tabs right here, the features tab and the sketches tab, or the sketch tab. These are the two tabs pretty much most beginning engineers need to worry about anyways. It's probably what you're going to use for most solid modeling. There's surface modeling, solid modeling. If you don't know the difference yet, we can go over that later as well. So the first thing we want to do is create an extrude. We can do that one of two ways. For each program, it's different. For SolidWorks, the way that I like to do it is actually just start by clicking either the extrude tool or the revolve tool. We're doing extrude, so we're just going to click the extrude tool. So we're going to click the top plane for what we're going to make, and we're just going to create a circle. And up here, once you get into the features, and once you get into the extrude and you've started it and clicked a plane, you're going to be given many of these options, and the sketch tab I talked about a little bit earlier. When I hover over the circle, it says circle, and we can actually choose different types, and this is a perimeter, a little bit like triangulation. You're creating 3 points to create a circle. We're actually going to do it the basic way to just give everyone a pretty general concept of what we're doing, and I'm actually just going to click the middle. Later on, another really important thing is going over referencing and picking reference planes, but for right now, we're just pick that center point. We're choosing the radius right now, so obviously the diameter is going to be twice as large. 0.68. I want it to be 0.7. So whatever size it is, you can come in here afterward and recreate that. If you don't know what all these options mean, don't worry about it. SolidWorks is very extensive, but it's also not necessary for most of the basic stuff. So I've created my 0.7 diameter and 0.7 radius for a 1.4 diameter circle. If I come up here and press, the return or the finish, so the sketch plane that I've selected is the top plane, and you chose that when you click sketch. Right here, we're just choosing the distance that it extrudes. So that's going to be, for us, let's just do 1. Depending on what I am working with and based on what I already have, I might use one of these other options. Mid plane is actually going to come from the center and extrude both ways evenly. So if I click mid plane, it's still 1, but it's actually going 0.5 from the center from each side. And if I increase this, it'll stay symmetric about that. So let's just do 1. And we're a lot of these other options are, if we have a surface, we can do that. If we have a body that we want it to extrude to and don't want to extrude through it but onto it, we can do that. But for right now, we're just going to do blind. This is a draft. Drafts are useful. I'm actually going to use it right now. You just click this button, and you're allowed to change the degree of this right here. Control space. If we press spacebar, we can just come in here and actually just pick a side we want to work with, and I want to work at this side just to show you what's going on here. If I click that draft, if I click 15, then we can see that angle is actually right here. So we're going up from here and this line right here. So as I increase that, you'll see this angle becomes greater. But we're going to do 15 for right now. You can also draft outward. So we're going to go with this direction 2 over here. And if you come over and you see this button right here, you just click that. You're given another option. And we're actually going to turn the taper over the draft off and make this 2. Because we're making that kind of casing shape that I showed you before. And so that's the first part. That's the first extrude you want to do. And so we can actually, as an engineer or a designer, what have you, you're more than welcome to design however you want to design how you usually design. It's really up to you. There's usually no right way to design. There is wrong ways, but there's a lot of right ways. So this is just the way that I'm doing it, and I'm going to show you one more method, but there's 100. So I'm going to come up here and click this green check mark. The next step is to create a kind of a contour shape. This one right here. It's in the Features tab. Go ahead and click the fillet and click that circle. And you can click any vertex you'd like. If you click multiple, you'll be able to fillet all of them with the same radius here. But we'll actually do the top to show you some features. So if I do this top piece right here and I increase the diameter, you can see that the diameter becomes greater. I've turned on full preview here. If your computer's a little bit slower, that's probably something that you're going to want to turn off just to make your computer a little bit faster with SolidWorks. A few features up here, it gives you a pretty good idea of what they're trying to do. But for right now, let's just stick to this first one, and I'll go through the other ones in a different video. But fillet parameters, you do symmetric or asymmetric, and the asymmetric just allows you to change the shape of the circle. And press spacebar so you can get a good view and click this little side here. If we increase that, you can see that this kind of curve changes. And you can think of it as a circle or an oval, where if this were to be completed, you would have an oval shape. And this is the distance from the top to the center, and this is the different distance from the center to the side. We're going to keep it symmetric for right now, just to keep it easy. And do 0.1. Let's go up here and do another fillet. We can do the same fillet for all the different sides, but for right now we're actually going to put this right here. And this is a very small angle, so we're actually going to need a very high diameter. I'm going to use 4. Very high diameter to allow for that angle to be smooth. Let's just move on. So now we have that kind of oval, nice smooth shape over there. And I'm actually going to come back into the first one and edit that feature. And just press Control and click another side that you want to add it to. And that's a very simple way of just adding things to your fillet. So if you really want to, when you're building parts, to have the least amount of features as possible, that makes the part easier to load. It also makes it so if you want to go back and edit something, it's not so hard to find. And especially in parts you'll be creating, this is such a simple part, and I already have, 3 features, and this is super simple part for, not even including assembly. So generally you want the least amount of features as possible. If I made 2 separate features for these 2 fillets, then I already have 4 features. So the next thing we want to do is something called a shell. The blue, whatever's in this blue box is going to be cut out, and whatever's in this pink box is going to be left in. And I'll show you what that means. So if I want, for instance, I want this to almost act as a vase. So I want this top part to be gone, and I want the bottom part to stay there so that you can almost pour water into it. The shell is going to do exactly what it says. It's going to make a shell. So I want this part to go away, but I'm going to click on this pink over here, Control, and click that bottom. Or not the Control, you just press the bottom. This is going to allow me to change the distance from the inside of the shell. I'd like to show the preview. And when I create the shell, you can see the part that I marked blue is gone. The part that I marked pink is still there. We can fillet the inside here. If I want to add a fillet on the inside, I can't just add it to this fillet because this wasn't created until after. This shell was created after this base was created. Move this shell back before this fillet. And as you can see, now it acts as though the fillet was made after the shell. So we can actually come in here, edit this feature, add this piece to that now. And I'm going to make that smaller so that we can actually add it on. You can move these parts around. You just click and drag them. If there's a reference that's being used on an older feature, a lot of times like this shell is based on this extrude. So I can't just click this and drag it behind that. It won't let me. So we're actually going to go through. We're going to delete this. So if you want to delete, you can just click and shift and click the top one, press delete. And when you press delete, it'll delete everything. So I'm actually going to delete this sketch too because I don't need it. And we're just going to kind of restart the process using a revolve. And we're going to do pretty much everything that we did in kind of one foul swoop. So I'm going to click sketch. I'm going to create my sketch first this time. And now we have this plane. Let me make sure all these, and you can actually click this and allow it to be viewed. And turn this grid on. The grid is actually up in this eye right here that usually sits. And now we have a grid to deal with. So the first thing I'm going to do is create some center lines. Because center lines are great. Center lines allow you to have something to base all your parts off of, or reference off of. So I just created a center line. I came up here and pressed this line tool, clicked it downward, click center line. You can do this either way. If I create a line, I can come through here, and in the options of the line, can click this little checkbox for construction. So if I actually unclick that, you'll see this is now just a normal line. You can see that. It's not checkered. It's just a normal line now. But I'm going to go in here and I'm actually going to make a construction because that's what I need. And based on its direction, I can click infinite length and it'll continue in that direction forever. So we're going to add a second part to this, or to the center lines. And so we come in here again, center line. You could do line and then add the for construction later, or even now. I'm going to make this infinite length now, and so I'm going to click that little dot that I want, and just make this go on forever. So now we have two kind of infinite lines that are we're gonna be able to snap to them. We're gonna be able to use them as reference, and it's gonna make my job and your job a lot easier. I come through here. When I get in this line, it turns orange. That means it's snapped. So I pretty much am on the line. I can drag it up here and kind of. I'm gonna make a. You can see it snapped again. It snapped to be horizontal, which is actually what I want. And again, there's more snapping. So now I have a coincident snap, and you can see that there's a parallel feature. There's also a coincident feature. There, and coincident just means it's going to be on the line that's highlighted orange. And the parallel is going to be parallel with the line that's next to it. I actually want both of those. If you accidentally don't do one of those, control and click both of them. You can see up here which ones are selected. And add relations, you can pretty much make them however you want. If I wanted to make them vertical, I could do that, and they'd become straight up and down. I don't want that because we have angled. But we also have parallel and equal, and we can fix them for whatever reasons. We can make them construction if we wanted to, if we just kind of wanted them as an outline. But for right now, we actually want it the way it is. So I'm going to continue this and bring this straight down. We've snapped again to a vertical line. That's also what I want, so I'm going to leave it that way. And a lot of snapping. Snapping is nice. Snapping makes your job and my job easier. So let's just stick with that. So, a couple things. Smart dimensioning is the best way to dimension when you're sketching. If I click one line and I click the line that's next to it, and you can see it's highlighted orange, it hasn't given me that dimension yet. But I'm going to click that, and now I have this 0.1 distance between these two. I'm just going to make it this top piece right here. I like it that way. So 0.1. I can make that a different size if I want to, but I'm just going to leave it at 0.1 because that's where I want it. Another thing, we want to make this a certain distance. We did 0.7 before, so we'll do 0.7 now. I just brought that into the center so it would revolve around the front plane and the right plane center axis. So space and that back. That you can do Control 8 too if I'm off, and I just Control 8 will bring you back to the center there. That only works in sketches. If you're in regular plane and you actually want to see this from a different direction, just press spacebar and you can kind of see that at any angle. So there's another feature up here. It's the fillet tool. We're gonna click, and then we're gonna click again on this piece, and you can see that didn't exactly work because, and it did work, it's just small because as before we had to make this 4, so we're gonna make that 4 again, and we're gonna do the same thing here. And so you can see you're actually allowed to make more than one. We can just finish this off, and now we have that fillet in there. I'm actually gonna leave this here. I'm gonna add that fillet in later. But for right now, we're actually I want to add these two as well. So it wasn't letting me add that fillet because the radius was too large. Just make it smaller, and then re-add it. So I'm gonna do that again here. I'm just gonna leave that at 0.1. That's fine and dandy for this. So you can kind of see the shape of the casing that we had before, and we're still only working with one feature, which is really nice. And we're just going to finish this. Well, we're going to come in here in features, and this revolve base, and it already has it selected, but generally you can click here, and you can pretty much pick any line. We can pick this one if we wanted, and you see that we kind of get a weird little shape if we click that axis of revolution. Very weird shape. That's what you're into, go ahead and do it, whatever. It works. But for right now, we're actually going to do it around this one because that's kind of the shape we want. And if you want to, if you only wanted like a quarter, then we could do like 270, and get that 3/4 shape. So you kind of get that different perspective on it, kind of what it looks like. You can go in here and finish it just by editing it and putting that 360 back in. So like I said before, we're going to add that fillet. So here and here, control click, and we're good to go. So we have the same exact part we did before, and we're doing it with 2 features. We ran through just some extruding, some dimensioning, fillets, shells, revolve. Please leave any comments, questions, concerns below.